the basic things that go inside of your business. How many people did I sign up? How many people did I lose? What was my revenue last month? What's my revenue now? Right. Like, how many starting point sessions do I do? Like, being able to know those basic things on a regular basis, but manage it in the micro part of it helps you drastically. Being able to know the metrics of what you're doing and keeping your staff accountable and how to measure that, like, it's unbelievably important.
Adam, what's up?
Good. How are you doing today, sir? Doing well.
Back in the Beats Lab.
back in the Beats Lab. Pop, 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 pop. Love it.
Yeah, man. Look, you've obviously you're still our pre-sale extraordinaire, and then I've also asked you to take over the operations of the corporate gym.
Yep.
And so because our business owns that business, if that makes sense. Sounds kind of weird, but corporate owns it. So, like, who on our team is going to run it? And I thought it would be an awesome opportunity for you to not only to run the business, but also I think it'll give you some insight as you're coaching people into the things that they should pay attention to. And I think that's what we're going to talk about today. Does that sound right?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Did you bring a dad joke?
I did bring a dad joke. Looked it up 5 minutes ago. It's pretty terrible.
Dad
jokes are terrible.
It's not terrible. It doesn't count.
It doesn't count. Why do seagulls fly over the ocean? Any guess?
Oh, I've heard this one. There's been so many dad jokes. I know this one. Okay, why?
Because if they flew over the bay, they'd be bagels.
Yeah,
it's terrible. That's so stupid.
Yeah. Well, we were just talking about budgets and if there's going to be like a recession and everyone's going on and on. And so one of the things that I've been doing is buying cheaper toilet paper.
Okay. Save a little money. Love it.
It's a real pain in the ass.
Yeah, I took...
That's the joke. Hold on, you blew right past it. I'm buying cheap toilet paper. It's a pain in the ass.
Dang.
All right,
just rolled right past it.
Geez, it was terrible.
It was terrible.
Man,
but it's a good one. That was a good one.
You gotta help me. You gotta work with me here. I knew it was bad. You gotta act like it's funny. Come on. All right. Well, we're going to talk today about we have. Let me back up just a second. I always do this, but. A lot of our franchise candidates and our current franchisees would love to be in a position to run their business in a term that's called semi-absentee. Now, I loathe the word absentee because there is no such thing as a absentee business. Now, when you look at franchising as an investment opportunity, you can categorize it separately. It is an opportunity. It is an investment opportunity, but it's not in the same category as a real estate syndicate or self-storage or something or a stock where you simply buy it and watch it, right? It is a living, breathing entity and it needs attention just like a baby or anything else would need. The key is what are the main things that people can be paying attention to, because we're also not saying top third of our franchisees, they don't come from the fitness space. So I don't expect you to go into your alloy and service revenue, but I expect you to pay attention to the main things. And so now that you're doing that, not only coaching franchisees on what to do, but you're actually running our corporate gym, I think it was your purpose today is just to talk about the things, right? What should you pay attention to?
We've had this conversation, and Matt and I have had this conversation a lot about the defining line of being present in your business. But a lot of people don't have the ability with full-time jobs or whatever it may be, and the metrics they need to be able to measure as they go through that. And there's a lot of people now in our brand who are doing very well, to your point, with no health club experience whatsoever, like zero. And being able to have that structure behind it of the things they need to pay attention to daily, weekly, monthly, but then also just being able to have that ability. You can't teach work ethic, and you got to pay attention to the things that are going on a daily basis. I would say the biggest thing, doing this for an extended period of time and then really coming in to the corporately owned location is really inspecting what you expect from your director on a daily basis every day. So just some basic things kind of right off the bat. Immediately I went into, is my director present inside the business, and are they there on an extended period of time? But just things from afar I could do immediately was I went in and, started listening to phone calls. You can pick up pretty quickly the expectation that your director is setting and the experience your director is setting by listening just to basic 2 or 3, 4 phone calls a week. Oh, is this how I want to be represented? Are they communicating properly? to get to the end goal of booking a starting point session or with members in general, I found pretty quickly that I could discern whether or not my director was engaged or not engaged in the way that I would like to have that happen.
So is that, like, I know, just to keep it simple for everyone listening, are these like the top 5 things?
Yeah.
Like, how do you want to organize this for those guys? And not to go back, but so the first thing that you would do, and we have the software and the mechanisms to do so, is to just listen to phone calls with existing members and or prospects.
Yeah, you can go in through ops and listen to that, and we have, you can
do that from anywhere, so you don't have to be in the business, and I'm air quoting, right?
Basically, are they following the structure of the phone script that you want them to follow? Are they setting the expectation? Are they basically doing a decent needs assessment to figure out what's going on? Are they setting the expectation of what the person's going to do when they come in there? And if they can't gear the conversation where it feels awkward in that conversation, that's something skill-wise you can help them work on. You don't need to be in your business from a distance. You can listen to phone calls in Hawaii. It doesn't matter.
Well, and I think of examples like I had Ken Campbell on the podcast, and he's used to running remote teams because his other business before he came to franchising Alloy was managing golf courses all over the country. And so he has a remote team and he knows how to do that. It's a skill, right?
Yep.
But it can be done. And it's still not semi-absentee. Again, the goal is not to go in there and service revenue. The goal is to pay attention to the right thing. So first and foremost, you would say, listen to those phone calls.
Yeah. And there's, we talk about it all the time. And the first thing, the phone call part of it, but I would say the first thing I did was GWC.
Right.
Does the person get it? Do they want it? Do they understand how to
for those of you guys that don't run EOS, that's like straight out of the EOS playbook. GWC gets it, wants it, and has capacity to do it.
And if they don't mark any of or all of those boxes, can you help them do that, or they can't do it, and you need to find somebody else who can do it? And that's a hard decision to go through that. And I think a lot of times owners have the hard time of the knee jerk. Do I get rid of them now? Or do I get rid of them later and kind of kick the can down the road? You generally want the right person in the right seat as quickly as you possibly can. Right. The other things I kind of noticed just right off the bat, and this is more present inside the business if you can once or twice a week, is just be present in a session. Go take a training session.
Take a workout.
My Lord, yeah. Be able to see, communicate with your members and see the experience of that, but then also see the engagement level of what your coaches are doing inside of a training session. I hear you say this all the time, and I hear Matt say this all the time. You can be technically a fantastic trainer, but if people don't want to gravitate towards you, they're not going to be that person. So you got to be able to say, is this person engaging enough? Are they having that attention to detail that you need inside of the training session that you would want represented?
Yeah, and I think like most of our franchisees represent our as far as like age category and fitness goals, and they represent our franchise, the end users of our franchise.
For sure.
So the franchisee is almost the same avatar as the end user. And so to take the session through the lens of like, if I'm just an ordinary person, which again, we talked about our top third, they don't come from fitness. They are kind of like ordinary people, right? They're not fitness people. How is this experience for me?
For sure.
And they can see it through the eyes of the consumer. They, in some ways, have more of an advantage to see it through the eyes of the consumer than someone like you or I who's been working out our whole lives.
And whether you notice it or not as an owner, and you doing this for a long time, you could probably walk in a health club and smell something's wrong. Like it just feels
100%.
wrong. You're like, wait a minute now.
Yeah.
And being able to go in and just randomly take a session every week, that's one of the first things I did. I went and took a session. And I said, well, if this head coach is what they're supposed to be, do I feel that this is the way it's supposed to be? Am I watching the members more than watching the coach? And how are they responding to that coach?
Right.
And you can find out pretty quickly of what the culture is inside of your facility. If you watch that head coach who's running 30 sessions a week, hey, what's going on? Like, are we being represented the way I would like it? Is this a service? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think some of our better owners, I think of Russ up in Maryland.
For sure.
And Virginia, but Russ is just a really good guy, and he's a consumer of the product. Like he's a big fan.
He's in there, yeah.
So he jumps into workouts at the gyms and gets to know the members because he's truly a consumer of his own.
Of the brand.
He drinks his own Kool-Aid, so to speak, right?
For sure.
And again, while he's not running sessions, he's looking at it more through the lens of a customer. Like he's an ideal customer. I think there's a big advantage to him doing that.
Sure.
He gets a really good idea of like how the business, to your point, what's the customer experience? How does it feel? Are we hitting the 7 core tenets? Like all the little things that can make a very scientific workout come to life.
Yeah. And the other thing I kind of noticed at the end of that portion of taking the training session, as you bring up the 7 core tenets about it in the Elvis Has Left the Building, are we doing the basic engagement things on a daily basis? Congratulations. Oh my God, you did wonderful on the job in the session today. I watched the staff start to do that, and then I watched the thank yous roll in from the members. Thank you for saying that. Oh my God, I was having a hard week. Like, it became instantly a defining factor of whether or not the member was happy inside of the brand.
So funny you say that. I've told this story before. I don't know if I've told it on the podcast. I probably have, but we actually had someone in the pipeline at one point looking at doing 6 Alloy locations in Raleigh. Mm-hmm. They are members of our Charlotte gym. The lady is. So it's husband and wife, and then her brother was going to be the operator, right? And, I asked her what she liked about it, because she's like, oh, I'm a member of the Alloy, the Colony, in Charlotte, and Trey and the boys are in Landon, and those guys kill it up there. And I said, well, what is it about it? She's like, do you know that after my workouts, my trainer will send me a text message and tell me that I had really good effort that day, or that they're really proud of me? And she's like, what place does that?
Nobody does that.
Of course, I'm like fist pumping, because for us, it's a system. One of our systems is, again, you got 30-minute padding on the back of a shift to send text messages random to clients, new clients, people that missed, or just a nice hey, great job today. And it doesn't take a lot of time to do it, and it really makes people feel special. To your point, you've got a customer in front of you. You've done what they paid you to do. You recognize nothing but effort, and they're thanking you while paying you handsomely. How cool is that?
How cool is that?
All by just saying, Adam, I see you. And who doesn't just want to be seen in this day and age, right? You want to be recognized as an individual, right?
And it becomes to that conversation that, you doing this, people can go join anywhere. Mm-hmm. And it's the things that we do on the background parts of things with the little encouragement and, hey, the accountability part of it, that makes you stand out unbelievably. Mm-hmm. And just watching, I saw a message of a lady in, Cooper, who's the head coach over at Haynes Bridge, to say, hey, great job today. You did really well on XYZ. And then she just sent back a paragraph of how her week was so bad, and thank you so much, and this made her week. And I'm like, oh my Lord, it makes
so
a huge difference.
Easy to move the needle. And we talk about this all the time. The passion should be in making people happy. When I talk to Ken Campbell, he gets it, because he's like, listen, I didn't understand Alloy at first, because it felt like, I thought fitness was 6-pack abs, but I'm the average customer.
People.
Once I realized that we're actually in the entertainment business, and we're there to create positive experiences in people's lives, it shifts the mentality of what you're there to do. Sure, do you need to coach exercises with integrity? Great. But more importantly, you're there to do exactly what you just said. You're there to be a bright spot in someone's life, right?
Mm-hmm. Makes a big difference.
And you never know what an encouraging word to someone who may never get that for whatever reason could do to their life, or at least their day, if not something bigger.
It's the same conversation we have about when you're doing potential member calls and you're calling people. You really have to figure out, who is this human? What's going on here?
Right.
They're going through something, or maybe they need help that I can't define. And you got to figure those things out.
Sure.
The other thing I kind of noticed, and Matt and I were talking about this morning, is I always, even when I was a college coach, but then also working inside of my franchises when I was an owner, is managing days and weeks instead of months. So I always took the mindset, in my directors and my general managers at first hated me, because at the end of the day, we are a revenue-based business, and how we survive and be able to pay our employees is we have to generate revenue. So on a day-to-day basis, I knew I needed to sign up 2.5 people. So I managed that 2.5 every single day. And being able to inspect sales process is part of that, but then also being able to set the expectation to your staff. We need to sign up 2 people a day.
Well, I love that idea. Obviously you pare it down to the granular, but that's way more attainable. It's right in front of you. It has a very short deadline, end of the day, right? As opposed to only checking in once a month, right? Plus, I think what part and parcel of that, at least from a thought perspective, is every owner wants the lagging numbers that we all want. You want great retention. You want great sales. You want a full facility of thriving people that are getting their lives changed, and you're getting paid handsomely on the back end, right? Those are the metrics that we want. But those are the lagging numbers that we measure after the actions have happened. The leading numbers are again, those leading KPIs, which are more behaviorally. Mm-hmm. So it's like, all right, 2.5 a day, and then what are the things we have to do today to get the 2.5? Yep. And then the end result will be the same. But I love the stripping it down. And again, if you're that granular with your team, everybody knows that today we're trying to do blank.
And to your point, like the granular aspect of it and stripping it down, I knew I needed two sales a day. I knew I needed to do X amount of calls. So if I didn't get that two sales a day and we didn't book X amount of starting point sessions coming in, well, let's go inspect this. What are we doing on the back part of that before we get to that?
Yeah.
And really, hey, I got you in, and then you came in and you didn't join. Well, I got to inspect that now. Like, what's going on?
Well, that's the great thing about having these KPIs that we have, because each function, if you're getting a lot of leads, but there's not a lot of throughput, check your phone calls. Yep. If they're actually coming in, but you don't have and we have percentage KPIs that we're shooting for. As an example, if people come and sit down with us because it has personal training on the door, we're working under the assumption after 30 years in the business that they understand what they're there to do. And we should be able to convince them that we have the right, solution to their problem. We're trying to close 80%. So if we're sitting at 50%, we need to review the starting point sessions, right? We're not proposing the right value proposition. We're not convincing them that we have the right solution.
Matt and I, and we talked about this briefly before we got on here. I was watching two things on YouTube this past week about Michael Jordan talking about scoring. And if you remember Bernard King in the late 80s, early 90s with the New York Knicks, both of them, Jordan always broke down scoring into quarters. He was always like, well, I knew I could lead the league in scoring every year no matter what. And it wasn't that, hey, I was going to get 30 points a game. He broke it down to 4.5 per quarter or 5 per quarter. He goes, I knew I can get 5 in this quarter. I knew I can get 6 in that quarter. I knew I can get 6 in this quarter. So I knew I was going to have 30 points by the end of the game regardless, because I knew I could get 5 points whatever I did. Bernard King broke it down into spots on the floor. He would go, my favorite spots to shoot from are from top of the key and just on the elbow. I know I shoot 80 to 90% from those two spots. If I get to that spot 10 times in a game, I am going to score 25 points. And watching him go through breaking it down, and other former NBA players were there, they were like, why didn't I know that when I was in the NBA? He's like, well, if you know your shooting percentage is X from here, and I can get to that spot 6 to 7 times per game, I'm going to score 28 points.
Just math.
And I was just like, man, that's genius. And I thought about the aspect of when I was a coach, we would break down volleyball hitting percentages for people. Well, I know my hitting percentage and my kill percentage is 90% of my middle, so I'm just going to keep pushing the ball to my middle.
Right.
But it comes down to, I would measure, and your staff, it takes a bit for them to understand, we're measuring in days, and days lead to weeks, and weeks lead to months, and months lead to quarters. If I inspect what I'm doing on a daily basis, and I know I need those 2 sales, and we understand the revenue part of that and the inspection part of that, if I'm averaging 2.2 sales at the end of the day, every day, and at the end of the month, I'm at 2.2 sales, great. I signed up 90 people this month.
Right.
So our life is easier. And then you can take care of the things on the reverse part of that and inspect those things. Like sales always is the cure answer to everything, but it helps you define what I need to inspect. And I would say the other thing we've noticed so far, especially coming out of November, December, January, there's a lot, and we talk about this, franchisees with no health club experience coming into this, the Ken Campbells, the Russes, the Dan Bunt and SLP, no health club experience whatsoever. Now, they're the flip side of that coin. Ken is from a distance, most part. Russ is in his business, but from a distance, he gives that cred to his director, and they run those things. Dan is in there on a daily basis. But
Dan still has a day job.
Yeah,
so
full time.
So does his wife.
Mm-hmm,
yep.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people getting to 120, 130, 115, and they have no health club experience, but they're saying, I'm going to exist inside of this system. I'm going to use these metrics. I'm going to measure them daily, and I have the work ethic to do it. And I think that...
Well, and a lot of it's just that relentless discipline to do the basics well every day.
Daily. Keep going.
Yeah, just don't. It's not something you pay attention to once a month. Just lean in, and then if you notice gaps, right, because there are processes and there's steps, and each step has remedies if there's any gaps. If there's not, great, pats on the back all the way around. We're changing lives, making money, can't get better than that.
For sure.
Otherwise, hey, here's some areas that we could shore up. And I think, the way that certainly you've attacked it at our corporate club and the way that most of our franchisees that are doing well, it all is seen as accountability is a great tool. I know for our director, there's some incentives to drive higher revenue for them, literally financially. So, of course, they want someone to come alongside them and hold them accountable.
Yeah.
No different than an end user really wanting to hire a trainer. Can they go online and find a workout on their own? Sure.
Yeah.
But they want you to make sure they show up Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 a.m. and that they work, at their capacity.
Yeah.
So very similar in the business. Like if you're the business owner and you want to be that, again, that elusive word, semi-absentee, this is what we're talking about. These are the metrics you have to pay attention to. And if you do, it's the old Peter Drucker, what gets measured gets managed, right? If you're really paying attention to these things will come to life. And if not, you'll have remedies to fix them.
Sure. And, it's Matt and I on a regular basis, like the basic things that go inside of your business. How many people did I sign up? How many people did I lose? What was my revenue last month? What's my revenue now? Right. Like how many starting point sessions do I do? Like being able to know those basic things on a regular basis, but manage it in the micro part of it helps you drastically. It just gives you idea of clarity of what's going on. Like you don't have to be insane like I am and be there, listen, I'm 17, 18, 19. People can't do that. But being able to know the metrics of what you're doing and keeping your staff accountable and how to measure that, like it's unbelievably important. And we had a conversation last week. Like I am a full speed person. Some people are not full speed persons. They're persons, people.
Peoples.
But you would be surprised how many people, not surprised, thrive in structure. Here is what we're doing today.
Almost everyone does. Whether they will admit it or not, they absolutely do.
And it may seem, and if you're that type of person who's like, I'm going to push structure, it may be a conditional change for the other individual. But if you constantly reinforce that structure, here's what we're doing today. Here's what we're doing today. Here's what we're doing today. People at the end of it, one, it teaches them how to run the business without you there. But then also we'll come back and say thank you for holding me to that structure if they're the right person.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the old, did you see the movie Whiplash?
Yeah.
Okay. So there was the part in there in the bar where he's like it was about a famous music teacher at a school called Schaefer out of Philly, I think, or New York. I can't remember. I don't know if it's a real school, to be honest, but best music school. And this guy, what's the actor's name? The baller guy, J.K. something. I
know
think of his
he's
name.
from.
You guys would know him. He's in the farmers.
Voice.
Yeah, he's in the farmers commercials, but he's pretty jacked.
Yeah.
And in this, he's just a tyrant, right? But he is describing later. He gets fired for some things that he does, and then he's describing to one of his former students. He's like, I don't think people really realize what I was trying to do. He's like, and he described like Charlie Parker having a cymbal thrown at him, almost took his head off. And he's like totally humiliated. And he's like, he could have quit, but he didn't. He went back and practiced and practiced and practiced. And the next year he got up on that stage. And then, of course, this is the words from the movie. He's like, he played the best motherfucking solo anybody's ever seen.
Yep.
And that's The Bird, right? Yep. And so he's like, then the guy asked him, well, can you push somebody too far? Like, can you push them too far? He's like, no, man, no. Charlie Parker would never quit, right? Yeah. I'm not saying that we're that extreme.
Correct.
But if you do it with kindness and you do it with an upbeat attitude and your view on it isn't that you're being overbearing and oppressive, it's that you care enough about this individual to help them and you and your members be very successful because you're helping more people in the community. Check. Everybody's on board with that, right? The director's happier because there's self-efficacy there and they're learning. Check. And you're happy because you're getting return on investment and you're changing lives, which is why you got into this business to start with. Sure. So it's all positive, but you have to get, I would certainly argue and encourage anyone that's not sitting in the owner's seat to really get your mind right about why you're doing what you're doing. Mm-hmm. To your point, like it's something that's just inherently wired in you that way. Like, oh, it's accountability. It's great. Like, and I'm going to do it with a really extreme pace, but I'm going to teach people how to do it. and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to encourage them when they do it well, and when they don't, I'm going to correct them kindly. And if they can't handle that, it's probably just not the right person. But it would be ideally to start out that way, right? Like a little bit harder to maybe change it if you've been standoffish or you've been a little bit more absent as far as attention to your business. But if you're willing to lean in early and often, you will set a culture of accountability, and you will make everyone pay attention to the right things.
For sure. You know,
behaviorally.
It came into a staff meeting, and I said, listen, I'll run through a wall for you, but we're going to run through a wall together. Like, we're going to do this together.
Love it.
And I just think even if you can't be that person and be in the facility like that, and being able to just know, like we said, basic stuff, man, you should be listening to phone calls. You should be listening to phone calls. You're going to figure out pretty quickly what's going on. Go take a session. You're going to see member experience pretty quickly. And if it's not up to your standards, then it's probably not up to their standards. And the member doesn't even know. And it probably should inspect your sales on a daily basis. Just granular. What are we doing? Are we hitting the key metrics? Did I do my phone calls? Did I book the starting point sessions? If I didn't, I know I'm getting the leads. What's going on with that? How do I work backwards? And then truthfully, having that structure and thinking about best person in the right seat and how am I going to score the most points in this time frame, and what's the best part of, or what's the best use of my time. Know your numbers, participate in your business the way that you can, but being able to say on a daily basis, what are we doing and how are we doing it is unbelievably important. I've always been that person, like I'll run through a wall, but even if I couldn't from a distance, sometimes I needed to know daily things. Like, what's the numbers? Like, what are we doing? Like those type of things.
Cool. Anything else to add?
I just kind of going back to the stuff Matt and I were talking about this morning. Like, I've said this multiple times, and I have a friend who wants to buy into the brand in Washington State, and he's an old Family Fitness, 24-hour fitness guy. And he was like, oh, so, we got to sign up 50, 60 people a month. And I was like, no, what are you talking about? This is the only brand I've been in, and I tell this to people in pre-sale now, and I told it to Dan. If you do a good job, you only got to do this once. You only got to do it once. So these next 4 months, I love the drive of doing it all the time. But as a business owner, how attractive is that? I can either go full scale speed and pay attention to everything, which you should pay attention to everything anyways, for a 4-month period. Even if you're an open facility and you make a decision from this day moving forward for the next 4 months, I'm going to be all in on this and we're going to get to where we want to go. For a 4-month period, I can go gangbusters and market and promote and close and manage. And then I just have to nurture.
Yeah.
Like, man, if I could travel back in time and be 22 years old and say, listen, I'm just going to open a training facility and have 130 members and I just got to keep them every month. And I don't have to sign up. I know I'm not going to cancel 60. Like, there's something amazing to be said about the brand where if you put the right people in the right seat and you have the work ethic for a stretch period of time. Ken Campbell, he marketing wise, he ain't never got to go crazy again.
No, he's got a great director. Yeah. And 40 of their pre-sales came from referrals, which all you have to do is ask. I mean, it's just basic stuff, but he made that, when you listen to his podcast, he made that part of his culture. Mm-hmm. It was a normal thing. They measured it. They asked about it. So it's like, why would you not when people are most excited?
A win's a win. If you don't
just
get
ask.
it, yeah.
And if you don't get it, big deal. Cool. It's not like it's offensive. So, all right. Well, look, I know this is really basic, but I kind of wanted to redefine the term semi-absentee and really have everyone understand what that means to us. What is our lens on what the true definition of semi-absentee means? And you just laid it out. And to your point, learn to make the sausage go, be very engaged early on. If you can reach what we would describe as escape velocity, which is that 100 members plus, it really does get a lot easier. And once the business is full, and we've seen this on multiple occasions, it's subscription-based income. The churn is relatively low. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to screw it up once you reach full capacity. It really is hard. So like the key is keep your foot on the gas, keep measuring, get that place slam full of happy members, right? And then start to look at how you can slowly back away while still, now you've taught your team what to measure, you're still checking in on them, things like that. But yeah, that's the level of engagement that we would anticipate. So, and that's what you've shame on us as owners. We were probably not the best owners, right, as a company, because I sound like some of our franchisees, I got another job. It's like, it doesn't matter. These are not hard things to pay attention to. Part of it's been doing it for 3 decades, and we just weren't doing a good job. And like putting you in this seat, you're just doing what you would tell anyone else to do. But again, it takes a week, and we're already moving the needle a little bit, because corporate's like, they're a pretty good club, but they're not top of the heap. We should be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying to any owners that are already in Alloy are looking at it like, I get it. I'm you also in a lot of ways. It sounds crazy. It's like, well, yeah, but it's your business. You're in the same business. I'm like, yeah, but I'm running a franchise business, and that's a separate business than a brick and mortar business, right? I know what the brick and mortar does, but my daily running of a business is on the franchise side. So I get it. But somebody on the team, whether it's you, your partner, whoever, they got to pay attention to it.
Got to do.
Anyway,
And that's
sage advice, and I hope that helps everybody redefine what semi-absentee ownership is. Anything else to add?
No, I think that was the big part of it, like being able to manage on a daily basis what's going on and having the key metrics to measure and say, hey, if we're not getting X, where does X come from? Those types of things. Being able to get on a call and say, this is how many people we signed up this month and this is how many people we lost. That's a big thing. It's a big thing.
It sounds silly. Like, how would you not know that, right?
Yeah.
What I heard is like I should shoot from the elbow at least 10 times a game.
Right to the top of the key. Go.
With my percentage.
80%?
It's going to put me, I'm going to get 2 points a game.
I'm going to put the right person
I'm only going to get there every now and then when I do, I'm going to miss 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah,
but I'm going to get those 2 points. I'm going to get those 2 points.
I got my 2 points.
Got my 2 points.
That mattered.
Look at that. Coming off the bench.
2 points every game. I'm good.
All right. Well, listen, man, appreciate you. Keep up the good work. Thanks for taking over Corporate Gym. And I hope that helps, guys. Cheers.
Thank you.